Hello everybody, here are the answers for Tuesday's maths lesson. Those of you that were in school will have already marked this one, but just so you can have a look, this was a tricky one, so don't worry if you didn't get it all 100% correct, it was tricky. Okay, let's start with turning the pen on, that helps. Where's the on switch gone? Okay, pen is turned on. Right, so let's start here with a quarter of the square being red. A quarter, as we said the other day, I'm just going to go through this quickly as we're just doing the answers. A quarter is equal to 0.25 or 25%. So we're colouring in 2/10 and 5/100, which I have done here. 2/10, which are 2 whole 10 sticks, and 5 individual hundredths. So that's our red. 0.5 of the square is blue. 0.5 is 5/10, which is the same as a half, or 50%. So here we have our 5 blue. I started at the other side just to make it easier. And then finally, we've got 3%. 3% is the same as 3 over 100, or 0.03. So it's just 3 individual squares. The question was, and they were all slightly different questions, the question was, what fraction is uncoloured? So looking at what I've got white, I've got 2 10 sticks and 2 individual hundredths, which means I've got 22 out of 100. That is absolutely fine as an answer, but I did just write this one if anyone could simplify it and put 11 over 50. But if you've got 22 over 100, absolutely fine. Do check the question though, because they are slightly different. This one wanted a fraction. Okay, the next one, 0.75. That is equivalent to 3/4, or 75 over 100, or 0.75, or 75%. So that's colouring in 75 of our little individual squares. So 7/10, 5/100. So those are my blue ones. 2 hundredths are red, so 2 out of 100. So that's just 2 little squares. And 1/10. Now, don't get mixed up between, you've just done 2 hundredths. A lot of people would then see the 1 and think that's just 1 square. But it's not 1 out of 100, it's 1 out of 10. And if you think about 1 out of 10, that is a 10th, 0.1. So it's actually the same as 10 out of 100. So you need to do 10 squares, a whole row. And this time the question was not what fraction is unshaded, it's what percentage is unshaded. So again, you have to read carefully. So I've got 10 here and 3 here, so that's 13%. Okay, this one had the easiest colouring, but the question was a bit tricky. You may not have understood the question. 50% is red. We've done 50% before, that's a half. So I coloured in a half red straight away. 30 out of 100 is green. That's quite easy, so it's 3 rows. And then 0.1 is blue. Again, just don't get mixed up between 0.1 and 0.01. It's 1/10, so that's a whole row. So I've got left, what fraction is uncoloured, it asks for. That's 10 out of 100, or 1/10. But then it says, can you express this fraction in more than one way? And by that, it means, if you've got a fraction, could you show me it as a decimal or as a percentage? That's what the question here was asking you. So the answer is 10 out of 100, or 1/10. Expressing it in a different way would be 0.1 or 10%. Okay, this one was tricky because of this section here. Okay, 10%, that's fairly easy. We've got 1 10 stick, there it is. 13 out of 100, no problem. 0.3, the only problem there was getting mixed up between 0.3 and 0.03. This is 3/10, or 30 out of 100. So you've got to make sure that you've done 3 entire rows for that one. That might catch you. But now we've got 1/5. Now the problem here is that a fifth is not the denominator we're used to. We've been working out of 100. So what we've got to think about is, what is a fifth of 100? Or if I were to split 100 into 5 equal sections, how many would be in each section? So we can do that by drawing it. So I can look at my 100 square and think, how would I split this 100 square into 5 equal sections? But the other way to think of it is as a calculation. Remember the chant we used to do, divide by the denominator and then multiply by the numerator. We don't need to multiply by the numerator because it's a unit fraction. The top number's 1, so we don't need to do that. But do you remember that chant, divide by the denominator? So we could do here 100 divided by 5. I know there are 10 5s in 50, and 100 is double that, so it must have double the amount of 5s, which would be 20. And then if I split this 100 square into 20s, I should be able to see that I have 5 equal sections. 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows. So I've got 5 equal sections there, which means a fifth of my 100 square is 20. And that needs to be coloured in orange. So here is my fifth of my 100 square. That one may have thrown some of you, so don't worry if you didn't get there. The question is the fraction that's uncoloured. That's 27 out of 100. You can't simplify that one because 27 and 100 have no common factors. 27's in the 3 and 9 times table, but 100's not in either of those. So no common factors, you can't simplify it. And the last one we did all together, I believe. Yes, we did. The one that was tricky here was the 6/20ths. So again, another way you could have done it, divide by the denominator, multiply by the numerator. 100 divided by 20. Well, we've just done it the other way round to work out if 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 100 divided by 20 must be 5. Multiply that by the numerator. 5 times 6 is 30. So that's another way you could have done it, as well as doing what we did, which was count up in 20s, count up in 6s. So there's my 30. We had 25 blue, 20 out of 100 red, 0.7 I changed to yellow, if you remember, because it had blue on there twice, 1/10 being purple, so 8% is left. Okay, so I hope you did okay in those ones. It was a tricky piece of work, so don't worry if you struggled. And I hope you find today's video, that's Wednesday's video, okay. See you tomorrow.